Well, guys and fans out there, I finally managed to catch or get hold of Aldo. Those of you who don't know, this is Aldo Scribante, part of the Scribante family. Now, towards the end of last year sometime, at a specific racetrack, I was trying to get an interview with you, and I caught you in this specific trailer, scribbling on a piece of paper. And you waved at me and said, "Not now." And subsequent to that, when you eventually came out, you mentioned to me what was happening.
Yeah.
Please tell us that story.
Gary, that's a funny story. We were at Swartkops racetrack.
Yeah.
It was the last round of the G&H Supercar Championships. My brother and I went up to compete, and during the course of the weekend, there were a few GT3 car owners there, and we were talking amongst each other, and talking about GT3 racing in general, and what would the competitors like and what would they not like.
Yeah.
And the general consensus were that the competitors were in favor of longer duration races.
Yeah.
Preferably 45 minutes to an hour, and a standalone styled race. And then the question was raised, but are there enough GT3 cars? Is there enough density to accommodate a standalone race?
Mm-hmm.
So, the likes of Marcel, if I can remember, my memory is not that good. The likes of Marcel, there were a couple of other people in that meeting, my brother, Aldo Scribante, my cousin.
Charles was there.
Charles was there.
That's
the
right,
Rangies. Charles was there. We sat actually here in this Pentec, and we started jotting down on a piece of serviette.
I believe you've got it there.
I think I've actually got it here. Let me just.
This is interesting, folks. This is how you start a series in South Africa.
This is old school, where we started jotting down a couple of names and cars, and after chatting to a few people, we had a couple of ideas that you know what, we could maybe host 12 cars on the track, and that's it. Today, there's SACTRA has been formed, South African GT Racing Association.
That's right.
For the balance of performance, and we've had some wonderful, interesting results today. Very interesting. I don't think anybody in motorsport would have been able to have given you these results prior to today.
Yeah.
We had the help of two professional drivers, namely Michael Stevens and Stuart White,
Mm-hmm.
very well respected in the motoring fraternity. And I think it was just an all-round great day, great bunch of guys, and we've certainly made massive strides forward today.
Well, I've been a massive GT fan most of my racing career in various aspects I've been involved in. What I'm very excited about, you guys have managed to put this together, and if I'm wrong, please let me know. But for all the youngsters out there, this is possibly a place that you can eventually go and play without having to spend money to get into Europe, to have your first taste, or possibly experience racing a GT car. Is that could that open up for youngsters in South Africa?
Most definitely. This could be a stepping stone to GT racing overseas. I mean, if you look at the drivers here, we're all gentlemen drivers, we family business owners, we race because we're passionate and we enjoy it. It's a sporting hobby for us. I don't think there is a professional driver amongst us. We invited two professional drivers here today. But most certainly, I think if the SACTRA, the plan is to run the series professionally, and with a solid set of rules, level out the playing fields with the car, maybe introduce success led into the equation, because at the end of the day, you don't want the same winner every weekend. You want different winners. You want close racing. It makes for good spectatorship and viewing.
Sure.
So I think to answer your question, definitely, I think. Especially the Polo Cup drivers, there's fantastic young drivers out there. There's a lot of the GT owners that have two cars, and they're willing to rent their car out for a race. So and I mean, it's the real thing. It's as close as you'll get to the Le Mans 2021 spec cars. At the end of the day.
Well, that's what makes it so great, because South Africa has a success story of racing GT type cars around the world. We got the likes of Calvin van der Linde, we got Jordan Pepper, we got Sheldon van der Linde, and another youngster that's about to go and try his hand, and which we'll talk about a couple of months' time after he gets there. But it's because he's had this association with GT cars in South Africa. And Calvin and them have gone over there and made a career for themselves. And I know they're watching because they're both online.
Yeah.
So hopefully this can bring the future South African talent closer to getting into that game overseas.
I certainly believe this is a stepping stone for GT3 racing today. This is the inception. This is actually the start of it. The commitment that the car owners have shown. I mean, they've all taken their keys and placed it in a professional driver's hands and said, right, take my car and let's balance it out and let's see what the car can do. So nothing was left to chance. And the last thing you want to do is get the racing driver's opinion, because there's 100 problems from A to Z. So yeah, that was ironed out very nicely today. We had a lot of chuckles amongst each other. But yeah, I think the foundation must be right, and the rules must be right, and it will grow successfully. Well, people will join the series.
Having watched some of the times that the professional drivers put out there,
100%.
The cars are close. And maybe,
remarkably.
Yeah, and maybe the little balance of performance. In other words, it might be easier for you guys. Actually, it might be more difficult for you guys to try and balance it because they've been so close.
I think it's going to be easier because they're a lot closer than what we expected.
That's
I
right.
mean, we're having Generation 2 cars. Obviously, the Gen 4 cars were all in spec.
Yeah.
The Gen 2 cars, let's say, were in their skin. And the Gen 2 car, the Aston Martin, was the quickest car on the day.
That is true. That's
it. So that on its own tells you that our balance of performance that we've introduced is working. I mean, we had 4 cars. We had 3 cars within 50 hundredths of a second.
Yes.
Back-to-back times with Stewie White and Michael Stevens averaged.
Now, just for some of those on there, because I see Uli Sanner's online, and he's been racing BMWs all his life and a couple of other people. This is not only open to what we call GT3 cars. Am I correct? It's open to potentially a cup-style car, if I may say that.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Its focus is on the GT3 car and the GT4 class. So there's a GT3 class and there's a GT4 class.
Okay.
And there's a GTO class, GT Open. Okay. And that is to introduce the cup cars and the Super Trofeo cars, which will also be balanced out with a separate balance of performance for those cars to bring them closer together. So there's a lot of work to be done. I think today the inception was predominantly around the GT3 cars, but certainly the series is open to all those cars.
Well, that's actually quite exciting because it opens you to potentially, because you and I know how many cars in this country.
We know.
If they all come and play, we could have 25, 30, 35 cars on a grid for 2 1-hour races every time.
Yeah, I believe that. I'm not going to elaborate too much on the series. You're probably going to speak to our chairman, Isak, and CEO, Wayne Riddell. They'll be able to elaborate a lot more on all those specifics.
Yeah.
But, today, I think, was a great starting point, and the commitment was shown, and I believe it will grow from strength to strength.
Aldo, thank you very much for your time. And thank you for what you and all the guys over here have actually done today. You have changed the face of South African motorsport.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate those words. Thanks a lot.
Right, fans, you've heard it. I'm going to try and get hold of Isak Spies as the chairman. So bear with me. As soon as I find him, I'll come back live with his interview. Thanks for watching.